it's getting funny here. I think we are in the right mood to have another look at the game, and this time you'll be able to ask a lot of questions. Yeah, you know, we've been able to actually defeat the boss in this very demo a few minutes ago. We had a, I'd say, speedrun worthy time of 7 minutes and 12 seconds. It was okay. Sintika really, she was into it. So like she had her first run and she almost finished it, and then she was like, okay, we need to do this one more time. And I said, okay, we have this interview slot coming up. And she said, oh, maybe just really quick if I'm really quick. And she was quick. So we'll see how fast you can go through this game. But that's not the goal right here. Yeah. We want to show some mechanics.
It's not just about speed.
And talk about, of course, about comparisons to the original game. And this is gonna be a lot of fun. And I promise you, there's going to be a lot of questions from the chat, so please be prepared for that. I'll forward them to you. I'll just have a look at this. Wherever you're watching right now, so I know some of you guys are maybe watching, I don't know, at the THQ YouTube channel or on the Facebook pages. The chat we're using right here is from the THQ Nordic Twitch channel, so twitch.tv/THQ Nordic. That's where you find us, and that's where you'll also be able to communicate with us. So please make sure you head over to this very stream. So it's okay if you just pop up that chat and watch the stream wherever you want. Someone posted this. He was watching the stream on YouTube and has the chat here. So whatever you want to do, but if you want to like communicate with us, so why not? Please, Andrew, go ahead and jump into the game, and we'll talk about some details. I remember some of the questions that had been posed before, and I'll try to forward them to you too.
Yeah, this gives you a nice overview of the. Whoever hasn't played the game, like these are the skills, the basic skills of Spongebob. So this level,
the rolling green
I'll let him
hills
talk.
of Jellyfish Fields, a place to experience nature at its most raw, and sometimes a bit tender from the stings.
Are you okay?
No, I'm not okay, you barnacle head. Do I look like I'm okay?
Well, according to the Jellyfisher Field Manual, severe jellyfish stings can be treated effectively by applying a thick layer of king jellyfish jelly to the affected areas. King jellyfish?
Well, I guess you're off to scale Sport Mountain and die a horrible death under the vicious tentacles of king jellyfish. I'll stay here, balled up here in excruciating pain.
Okay, so now we're in gameplay mode. We already said or already found out it's not possible to skip the intro here, so we're gonna see this a few times. Maybe just for our production crew, can we have the gameplay sound a little less loud on the phones, please? Oh, there's so many questions. Can you see them already? There's really a lot. I'll try to note some of them down. Yeah, as I said, I will forward them to you. So I don't know where to begin here. People actually were happy about some of the features they saw. One of them is the ledge grab, for example. They saw the ledge grab, and there was a short hype for this, so that when Spongebob should fall off the ledge and he grabs it and still can hold on to it, they love that feature very much. So
yeah, this
is the detail level we're on, right? So this is what people are really excited for.
Yeah, definitely. Like, obviously, it's a cult classic, so we don't, you know, completely redo anything in a very different way. It's really about the small details that basically just help you play the game in a modern way, but still have the feeling that you had when you played it back then. So this just means that we are working a lot on the camera, so that you don't need the right stick that much. You don't need to control the camera much. You can play most of the game just with one, as Andrew is demonstrating here skillfully. You can basically just use the left stick, and these are things that don't actually, you know, change the way you perceive the entire game and the dialogues and all the stuff that happened, the way that you remember it. But that just makes it a smoother experience. And the ledge hold is one of those things. The original was a tough game. It was a hard game. There's no doubt about it. With some steep difficulty spikes in kelp forest and stuff like this. So these are the things that we're looking at. But all in all, it's really about just bringing back one of the best 3D platformers ever made, and the best SpongeBob game, in my opinion, in the best-looking way. And Purple Lamp are doing an exceptional job, as you can see.
Oh, we can just ask this the chat in this direction, like if they consider this not only the remake, but also the original game, the best SpongeBob game out there? That's a good question, so we should ask this to the chat. You can just answer with plus or minus. If you think this is the best SpongeBob game out there, then please answer with a plus. If not, then with a minus. We'll see. Yeah, nah. Yeah, nah. And they also...
Plus.
They are also looking for or asking for a public demo. Do you guys know? I mean, I wanted to talk about release and stuff like that in the end, but is there other plans to have maybe at some point a public demo or beta or something out?
Currently, you can play it here, of course. So everybody who's here and who's willing to go through a queue of about 2 to 3 hours currently can play exactly the demo that Andrew is playing here. I don't know if I can't confirm yet any plans for a beta or anything like this. We might, as we have a new multiplayer in the game. So we're keeping the original story campaign as completely as it were. But what we're doing is we're restoring little deleted scenes, if you will, like the Robo-Squidward fight that people know from the concept art, but that was never created. And as well, the longer version of Patrick's Dream, which you could hack into. If you hacked the old game, you could find this broken level that wasn't really playable. But that was, you know, it's enough to see like what they kind of wanted to do. So we're just rebuilding that properly. But that's all, you know, outside of the main experience, which should stay untouched, because you don't draw a mustache on Mona Lisa. And with the multiplayer, I think that might be the first thing where we invite a few more people to play, so we can just see how people like the new Horde mode, where it's just you and a friend, either like this on a couch or via online, and you just go and defeat hordes of robots.
Okay. As
SpongeBob, Sandy, or Patrick, whichever you prefer.
So there's gonna be a whole new mode, so it's not gonna be in the adventure mode, but it's just like something different.
It's just, we thought like, you know, the age range of people who love this game is pretty wide.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, fathers who was their first favorite game back then. They want to now play it with their kid and all this kind of stuff. So when we announced the fact that there will be a multiplayer, that was one of the biggest moments of excitement that we saw. Like a lot of fans said like, oh yes, finally we can play it together as well.
But okay, this online and couch co-op, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool, because then you have options like we were talking about couch co-op before, and I think it's not happening as often anymore that people really sit together. But if it's possible, I think people will sometimes make use of it, right? If it's a fun game, and even here, especially when it's a rather casual approach to game, right? Then it can really be fun.
That you're ready to tackle King Jellyfish?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We were actually having a Q quiz downstairs earlier this day. And we were asking quiz questions to the people waiting in the lines. And if they answered correctly, they got a fast path to move forward to the front of the line.
Oh, nice.
Which is pretty cool, right? And there was also a question about Bubble Buddy, and they weren't able to answer it. So They were asked how the name is of him. What's his name?
Kumpelblase.
Kumpelblase is it in Germany. They didn't know the German, they didn't know the English phrase, so they didn't advance. So it was too bad. Okay, now we're seeing the boss fight here.
Can we turn down the game a little bit more?
Yeah, it's still
pretty loud.
The overall sound volume is pretty high.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
So
it
we
has
can
not
see
been
some
before.
of the changes which we actually made in terms of differentiating it from the original, which is essentially feedback that the player is having. So when the shield is up, the effect which is on the Jellyfish King is stronger than it used to be, and it's much more visible. So it's this idea of taking the game and not changing it mechanically and making sure that it still feels like the game, because we're big fans of that and we love the original, while slightly modernizing it. And that's primarily things like these visuals. Memory cards aren't a thing anymore, so save points, you know, are a different necessity than they used to be.
Because you can, for example, in that fight, see now clearly that once he shoots at you, once he does his wave, that his upper part is vulnerable, but his legs are still dangerous.
Yeah.
And that was something that for many people, like when they now played it, when we first reproduced it exactly like in the original, people landed on the tentacles and they were like, why does this still hurt me?
Yeah.
So we wanted to show them clearly, you know, he might be vulnerable on his head, but the tentacles are still dangerous. So these are the little things that just also to make the game playable for really young kids and everything.
It actually was a little difficult for me to hit him at the first approach. I think the timing of my jump was not correct, and so I always landed on his tentacles, and then
they needed double jump.
Me. So I knew I had to jump, but I didn't perform it correctly. So that was actually really frustrating, because I was so short on time that this cost me the win.
Yeah, but it's also, I mean, the original wasn't an easy game. So obviously we're making it a little easier in terms of save points and the pixel perfect jumping that was required on the PS2. But at the same time, it shouldn't be a breeze. It should still be, there should be a bit of a challenge, just like it was back then, because otherwise it's not the same game.
Yes.
So you still need a bit of trial and error, or like trying around, and a bit of skill to survive the fight.
To learn how
you see the bigger,
behaves.
do you see the bigger gap between his tentacles? That is where you shall land.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thanks for the tip here. It's a little spoiler though, but no, I'm good. I'm good.
We'll spoil the very first one. The rest of them you're going to figure out yourself.
There's still like 7 different boss fights to come, so
cool.
It's okay if we spoil it one. So this is one of the bosses that is straight out of the series. So it's the Jellyfish King and the Flying Dutchman. But then you've got Robo Sandy, Robo Patrick, Robo Spongebob, and Robo Plankton. So you've got these mecha versions of the main characters that you defeat, and they are also very, very iconic kind of characters from the game, because they only exist in the game. So all these robots and the tikis, so the little face, the little wooden faces that you destroy, they are really unique to the game. They're not from the series. So this was, I think, one of the biggest things that how the team is really recreating these PS2 models, which didn't have that much detail. And now each robot has like a lot of little lovely details where they are really doing a great job of just adding a lot of personality to each robot. Because you can tell from the old game what the personality of the robot was. And from their main kind of details. But now you can add so many little nice things. And even like it's a joy always to just see the concept art. Even the concept arts make me laugh.
Something we talked to the team about a lot on that is the nostalgia factor. When I remember games from my childhood and I go back to play them now, they don't look the way I remember them looking.
Yeah, yeah.
And what we can do with this is kind of take the way we thought it looked back then and actually make it look that way now.
Yeah. This is a pretty good description of the process you're going through, because this is the exact same thing as with Destroy All Humans, of course, because they had this similar approach to, okay, what can we do to make this experience come back again and not the exact game, because that's not what you want. You don't want this I mean, there can be some flaws still in the final game. There's no problem, but they might be different from the flaws the first game had, right?
Yeah, it's also the question of just level of detail. A PS2 product, those were great games, and the graphics were a bit simpler. So I think you used your imagination a lot to add the details yourself, and now basically the tricky thing for both Destroy Humans and the team from Purple Lamp is to recreate the robot with kind of the details that you imagined back then when you played it first. Because you also looked at that robot, you saw its personality, and then your brain made it, filled in the gaps.
Yes.
And now we tried to fill in the gaps kind of the same way that you did. And of course, a big help here is that we have the support from Nickelodeon, who obviously know the series better than anybody else, and can give us hints and pointers and say like, okay, these kind of objects, these kind of colors, these kind of things are what define SpongeBob, what make a SpongeBob thing look SpongeBobby, and that is obviously a big help. But I think the other big help is that the team just loves SpongeBob. Like there's so many just die-hard fans in the team that all these things, the colors and the objects and everything is just burned into their subconscious.
Okay.
So that helps.
It really does. And it goes to that same thing of when we are recreating these boss fights, and it's like, okay, that's not how I remember it. What is how I remember it, and how does this feel for everyone within the team? And we're kind of trying to do that. Of course, the support of Nickelodeon is invaluable there, because they can really help guide that process in a really dramatic way. And so we're not really happy until it's like, yeah, that's the way I remember it, even though that's absolutely not the way it looked. And that's been a really wonderful opportunity to get to take the imagination we had back then and actually turn it into a game. It's been really awesome.
Which is not easy to take the step back at some point, right? So you got to get this outside perspective somehow. But it's still funny. I mean, I know there are a lot of fans of the series. Lenny, Ficate, and Artcore Cosplay have been here today at around noon. Have been doing the first gameplay slot. So the first time we've shown it here on stream. They are also huge fans, and they said they watch SpongeBob every day at breakfast. So. Yeah. Like this is really something.
It's part of the family.
Going on. He's part of the family basically. Yeah, they were really hyped for the game. They loved to play it. They loved playing it. So very interesting here. And they haven't played the original before. So you also, I know you want to, like, the nostalgia factor is very big, but you probably also want to make a game for new players who didn't play this before, right?
I mean, honestly, it's just a great platformer. So even if you're one of those few people on the planet who's not a mega fan of SpongeBob, then it's just a good platformer. So if you're a fan of the genre, there's still not that many awesome 3D platformers with this kind of, crazy range of different gameplay options, because that was kind of what defined this PS2 golden age, when they just, had so many, tried so many different things and had so many little options. Like we had in this demo, since it's pre-alpha, so it's an early version, we've got a lot of, coming soon signs lying around. Like you can see it here, coming soon, coming soon. That's because there's so much stuff in every level. Like you can bungee jump on the fish hook up there by basically hanging from your underpants. You can turn SpongeBob into a ball and roll around. You can slide down long tracks on your tongue with SpongeBob and Patrick on his bum. So there's just heaps and heaps and heaps of little bits of gameplay. And this was very special to that era. And that's just nice to recreate. So yeah, no matter whether you're the biggest SpongeBob fan or whether you just love these kind of, easy to pick up games and just have some fun with a lot of crazy things.
Crazy ideas.
I think after you've played the game, you will be a SpongeBob fan, I think is definitely safe to say.
This would be an interesting start to the world of SpongeBob if someone has never ever seen the series and starts with that game.
I have to make a confession here, which is I'm basically that fan. Like I had played the game back in the PlayStation 2 days, and it was one of these fun platformers that I played, but I never watched the show back then. I just enjoyed the game on a mechanical level.
That's fun.
And it wasn't until we were in talks about this coming up that I actually started watching the series for the first time. And at first I started, okay, this is work. I have to sit down and I have to understand what this is about. And certainly...
That's such a hard job you
It was
had
terrible.
there.
It was really
You had to.
And
you
it's
can
a tough
relate,
industry.
right?
Yeah.
That's hard to watch SpongeBob for.
Sometimes we watch TV for 10 days straight.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so
tough.
bad.
It's brutal. And at the end of it, I was definitely a convert. And I became a huge fan over the course of it because I had just missed it. Like, it was not in my, in the time for me. So I loved the game, and the show just had passed me by somehow. And now, now I'm a bit of a fan, I think it's safe to say.
That's really nice.
And for me, it's basically the other way around. I back then didn't have a PS2. So I played it at a friend's house a little bit, but I actually didn't know like how much stuff there is because, the stuff we're showing here is basic like 2/4 of one level, and there's like 12 or something. So it's a massive game. So I didn't know a lot of the levels, but I know every episode of SpongeBob by heart from the first day that they came out. So it's the other way around. Like for me, it was just nice. This is like from after the second season of SpongeBob. So this is like really golden age when the original creator Steven Hillenburg, who we all are very sad that has passed away last year. He was still deeply involved in the series back then, and you can feel that it's from that time. And that's just kind of nice.
I have some questions when we were talking about mechanics coming back. There was one more question earlier, whether or not the spin jumping would be back.
The
Spin jumping. I don't know about that actually.
Do maybe they not this or
maybe
this,
they mean something
or
else.
This bubble bash.
They were asking about
or
spin
bubble
jumping,
spin?
so I was wondering. So you don't know what they're talking about either.
I'm not sure what they mean with spin jump. There's like he has the bubble spin. This is the spin move, which you can do while you jump.
Yeah.
Which would turn it into a spin jump, I guess. Is this what you were asking for?
Okay, maybe your question's answered then. What did we ask? When you jump, the attack spin to get more airtime.
So basically the little kind of like speedrunner tricks to get through the game quicker. Yeah, I mean those are things that is kind of tricky to reproduce. Like a fan actually approached me after the stage show and asked about like whether we bring back glitches where you could use shortcuts in the level and all this kind of stuff. And we just look at it case by case. If it doesn't break the game or if it's not a problem or something, and if it's really hard to execute for some speedrunner or somebody, I think it's okay to leave it in, but it's really case by case discussion. Obviously, an average player shouldn't be able to accidentally run up somewhere and then be like, oh, where am I? Why am I here? Especially since you can change character. So you've got 3 characters and they can reach different parts of the level. If with Patrick you grab the freezy fruit, which we passed earlier, and you throw it on the goo, then the goo freezes and you can walk on it. With Sandy, so you can also only do that with Patrick. And with Sandy you have her lasso and you can lasso your way across the level. So there, obviously, if there was a glitch in the old one that allowed you to go somewhere where you shouldn't with another character, then we will likely try to avoid it. But this particular thing, I think...
I can say there's actually been some real debate about this because I'm personally a speedrunning fan, and I like to watch speedruns, and I enjoy that community a lot. And I guess our feeling is we're not intentionally making the game glitchy, and that's safe to say. But I'm sure that no matter what, speedrunners being what they are, they will find a way to break things wide open, and it might be a new route for them, it might be a new system of speedrunning for it. But we're inside the team, we have a wide variety of personalities and this kind of thing. So.
But it's just cool that you at all you're aware of the speedrunning community and that you looking at this kind of stuff from requests,
SpongeBob has a massive, like the original already has like a massive speedrunning community. And it's probably also down because it has a lot of variety, so it's not easy to go through it quickly because there's levels where there's I can't talk and play at the same time. So there's basically levels where you have to, there's a huge boulder running and you have to turn on a lot of switches to make sure that the boulder keeps running. And doing that, even just, on a normal speed is already tricky enough, and trying to do this super quick is not an easy task.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly Dark Souls with a yellow sponge, but it's also not an easy game.
We want to maintain an element of that difficulty too, because that is part of what made it fun, was that there was some real challenge there, and I think if we were to pull that out entirely, it would be a different game at that point, and that's not what we want to do. We throw in the term a lot, faithful remake of the game, because everything is new. All the levels are actually completely redone, all the models are redone, it's a 100% new creation, but we're doing it like side by side with the original to make sure that it's a one-to-one conversion of it, and being very respectful of a game which we really liked, and just making the version that kind of we want to be playing.
Yeah, and I mean, those are. I think I get it that some of the requests here might be quite special requests, because they are actually really aiming at the speedrun stuff, because they are using those exploits or whatever it is, glitches, to keep their times or to reach their times. So that's why they're asking whether that's still in or not. But I think it's isn't it always also a challenge to like find maybe
doing the routing for a speedrun is a huge part of that community. And so what I can say is there definitely will be speedrunning possible in this. What it would be, if we found those bugs or those glitches, we would take them out, but I know how these guys work.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they will find ways of having a speedrun of this game. I'm really, really looking forward to it. But no, I can't anymore, but I used to basically shut down during the GDQ events each year for AGDQ and SGDQ. For the week of that, really pay attention to that more. Now, these days I have to kind of pick and choose what I watch the next week, because I don't have the time I used to, but no, I really enjoy that community, and I'm looking forward to see what they do when they get their hands on this one.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be some fun.
Oh, it's going to be so embarrassing, because I'm sure they're going to find these like huge exploits and skips, and it's going to be like, right, we probably should have fixed that.
Yeah, but hey, what I mean, if it's out there, then it's out there, and I think that's pretty fine. Speaking of it being out there, so people are asking for a collector's edition or something like that. I've seen that question repeatedly in the chat. What are your plans on that?
We cannot confirm really anything concrete right now. If you look at how our company deals, you see that we have a long history on very special collector's editions with very weird names. So this is still something that we're looking at, but I mean, Spongebob as a franchise and as in terms of just the characters and everything, it lends itself to having more than just, being able to download it digitally. And our company, THQ Nordic, as a publisher, is very devoted to really creating unique kind of editions of games, because we know there is the demand there to have something that is really just about like the biggest, best version of your favorite game. Particularly with something like Spongebob, where you could say there is a bit of merchandise available.
Yeah,
so you could decorate your house to be just a giant pineapple filled with Spongebob things. There's a Spongebob couch.
Like this booth is, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's harmless. That's harmless. Like there's entire couches. Like there's an entire Spongebob couch that's just yellow with dots. You can have Spongebob shoes. There's new ones just came out and all this kind of stuff. So to even to be unique within this huge universe of awesome collectibles, we just have to look at the things that are really unique to our game and see what could be the coolest thing that people would love to have in an edition, and then just see whether people love it. I mean, all these kind of chats, if we afterwards read through this and we see people say like, yes please, yes please, yes please, yes please. Of course, then like, okay, probably this is something on the agenda that is worth following.
We should just quickly ask this, maybe who in the chat right now, who would be interested in the collector's edition? So please, just answer once with a quick yes or no. Let's see who's interested. Everyone.
I would say that's pretty clear.
So there's a few at least.
Yeah.
One or two are there.
Looks slightly positive.
Slightly positive. No. Yes.
And I mean, this boss fight actually is a bit of a topic switch, but this boss fight is an interesting example of what we said about like how people remember the game. So a lot of people remember this boss fight in a way that the Jellyfish King will only slam down to the ground if you go close. So this is what a lot of people thought back then, that you have to get close for him to do this, which is not really the case.
I see.
So this basically then brings about discussions internally of like, but if a lot of people remember it, that this is how it was, should it now be this way? So these are the kind of things where we'll also just, you know, talk to fans and talk to people and say like, you know, how do you remember that fight? Like, what did you think do you need to do to actually survive this fight? And yeah, it's a nice example of that everybody perceives a game slightly differently. I need underpants. I need underpants.
So need underpants.
Give me underpants.
Underpants.
Underpants. Get to the underpants.
Yes.
So, okay, at least 2 lives better than 1.
Yeah, at least you get 1 more try if you fail. Okay, other questions. Okay, what do we got here?
Like a new sponge.
I see. What about cheat codes? Any plans on those? You want to implement cheats, or is that something you'd say, oh no, we eradicate this?
I think that's something that comes very late in the game. You always have cheats while you develop a game, because otherwise it's a bit hard to develop them. And then it's always a question like how many of these cheats make sense in the game, how many people really want them. Because on the other hand, you know anyway that if you don't implement them, somebody's going to write a trainer and just make sure they're in there. I think if we do any, it should be something funny. But we also just want to make sure that whatever we implement doesn't affect the very core experience. On the other hand, it's, you know, if somebody, if it's a smaller kid who's a huge Spongebob fan and just wants to have unlimited lives or whatever, just to be able to play the game, why should we say no? Like, it's a game that's just meant to be played by many people who love the yellow sponge. So.
I mean, I guess my feeling is similar, which we haven't. We have developer tools, of course, during the course of it, so we can really get through levels and see that. So we have all that for making it. Whether or not it makes it the final game, I can just honestly, isn't a decision that we haven't made yet. I don't think it's a discussion we've actually even had yet, to be honest, in huge detail.
Not without beer. But
yeah, well, certainly lots then. But the PlayStation 2 era was an era where cheat codes were common in games, and if we were to make sure we do capture that feeling, it's certainly something that wouldn't be out of place, put it that way.
Okay, so it would fit. You'd say it
would.
You'd say it fit.
I'd say that given the game's history and the time it was out, that having those in there would be fitting, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just also needs to, you know, it also needs to fit the series.
Sure.
So we wouldn't, I don't know, put in a mode that makes you destroy, like puts blood in the game or whatever. So nothing that doesn't, you know, fit the vibe, the just happy peppy vibe of SpongeBob.
Fully destructible terrain.
For example.
Yeah.
No need for that.
Probably not.
Probably not. As you've been talking about the series, there's the series and the movie. People are also asking about the a movie-related game. I don't know. Have you ever been thinking or talking about other SpongeBob games you would make afterwards? I mean, or is it at least possible?
You mean? Oh, yes.
Sorry, what I can think from the studio perspective is that we are really focusing all of our attention on this one right now and making sure. I mean, we're not a gigantic studio, and we have a big team on this working on it, and all of our attention is going on that. In the future, you know, certainly I wouldn't be opposed to doing more of them. I can say that safely, but we'll just have to. I can neither confirm nor deny.
It just depends on the fans. It always depends on the fans, and you know, this is the first step. It's the first time people, like actual human beings, can step into a booth, grab the controller, and jump around and give us the first impression. So far, I mean, if I look out there, it's very positive, but it's always, you know, first things first. First things, we make this it's a gigantic task to make
Sure.
this the game that it deserves to be. And then obviously we hope that we can do more. I think the movie game is probably referencing the one about the first SpongeBob movie. It might be that one.
Yeah, I think that's the one they mean.
Yeah.
The one right after this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really depends. On this one, there's it's a bit of legal mumbo jumbo that the movie is actually from Paramount and the other games are from Nickelodeon. But
So
it just depends. Like currently, we're focusing all our energy on this because it is, it's a masterpiece that, you need to very carefully restore and. But we have a team that now is, focusing their whole attention, their whole energy into this kind of franchise. So once you've done this, you've taken a big step that hopefully helps you in the future to do something more. If the players say like, "Come on, I want more, give me more."
Okay, guys, I'd say this is probably enough of information on the other possible other SpongeBob games. I hope you're satisfied with that. I forwarded your questions, so this is cool. At least you say it's possible, so they're really happy with the answer, I think. It's possible, so they just have to wait until this one comes out, and then we'll see afterwards. It's a pretty good answer on this. I have one or two more questions that have been also popping up. Don't worry, I got you. I have all your questions right here.
All of them.
So what do we have? What else do we have? Okay, yeah, voices. What about voices? Which of the original voices will be in this game?
Basically, the way you can also already see it in the demo has basically a simplified version of the actual dialogue system of the game. So if some fans of the original will have noticed that at the beginning the dialogue is shorter than in the original and there's no close-ups of them like talking back and forth. So this is all still to come. We're in early development. But apart from that, basically the English version is faithfully exactly the same voice file. So these are the dialogues from the original, one to one. We're restoring the cutscenes scene by scene. We're just polishing them, making them more detailed. But it is really exactly what happened in the original. And for Germany, we're doing a complete new dub, a complete new voice dub, but with the actors from the series.
Okay,
so we're looking at bringing back all the original actors from the original game to re-record, to record a new German dubbing with Santiago Zismer and stuff like all these very well-known and beloved voices. And
so nice.
Great people.
I hope that satisfies you too. One probably minor question about the frame rate of the game. Do you already know which is gonna be? Yeah, I mean it's important. Yeah, but I think it could be answered pretty quick. I thought.
Yes, our goal is to have 60 frames on this game because for a 3D platformer, that just makes a big difference. You want really a smooth experience. Obviously, there's always a big question about how much shiny VFX things you want to have around, and that then drops your performance. But in our case, it's a game that lives off of this Spongebob style that is like a very clean and nice and simple style. We don't have to overcrowd it with effects. The team did a lot with the shinies and put in more collectibles and stuff like this. And obviously this is all much more elaborate than in the original. But at the same time, what really for them is the most important thing is to be somewhere at 50-60 frames at all times, because it just makes the experience much smoother. And I think a lot of speedrunners might be very happy as well if the frame rate is stable. So yeah, that is definitely a big thing. Across all the platforms, PS4, Xbox One, PC, Switch, everywhere.
So this is definitely gonna be everywhere, right? Okay.
All the platforms. All the platforms.
All the platforms. All the platforms.
60 frames, yeah.
Okay, cool. This is gonna be nice. The colors we're seeing right here, is this always already close to final, or are you also planning on changing little minor stuff on this? The colors?
The colors.
This is pre-alpha.
Yeah, okay, so this is also gonna be like...
This is pre-alpha.
Yeah, sure.
It's gonna go through a lot of revisions through the course of the process.
Like even the little bumping of the robot at the end of the cutscene, this is just something that popped up really late before the show. I mean, the level is, there's already been a lot of effort put into this level, obviously, because we want to show it to the public.
And you can see it,
so,
that's what
So, saying is pre-alpha also means like we are in general at pre-alpha. This level is a bit further down the road, but at the same time, certain things that affect the entire game, like frame rate, but also the entire lighting, that then affects all the colors. So that's why we're saying, like, look, simply because of that, we need to say it's pre-alpha because, you know, it might look subtly different, but it will look different just in terms of the colors, the lights, all these little things that are getting polished up until the very end, and at the very end it really comes together. But I think what you can already see and what we can tell from the feedback is that gameplay-wise, it's you know, it feels right. The camera is good. The punch, the swing is punchy.
It makes fun.
It
makes fun.
You feel it break. That's important. Like when you punch it, you can really
collecting
feel it.
Collecting the items is also cool. So that's really like addictive. You even if you don't need to collect those for the demo, you just want them.
Yeah.
They're so shiny.
I mean, that's one of the things that the team was very keen about, was to spread a little more of the shinies around. Also to kind of, you know, it doesn't give you an overwhelming amount of guidance. We didn't want to, you know, spoil all the secrets. But at the same time, if they have spread a few more shinies around the level to give you a bit of a better, you know, like maybe look over there, maybe try this bit here and stuff like this.
Okay. So we're almost heading towards the end of the session here. So let's just really quickly talk about the plans for the release of this. We already heard it's going to be on all the platforms. So what are you aiming for the release of this game? So you obviously haven't put out a release date yet, but like a rough region.
We're basically currently our release window is just 2020. We're gonna soon, probably in the next few months, we can then give out more details about video games are a complex product, but we know it's coming out next year, and we'll of course try to deliver it to people as soon as possible so they don't have to chew through their fingers waiting. And apart from that, yeah, as you said, it's coming out on PC for the first time, because the original, if I remember correctly, the PC version of the original was like a completely different game, if I'm not wrong. And then the Xbox One, PS4, and of course on the Switch. Yeah, and I think apart from that, the one thing we're looking forward most is to see like just how people embrace the new multiplayer. We're currently now in early, there's the first few tests where people sit around and we try it and are having fun with it, and so we're really excited to see like, okay, is what we come up with, what we find fun when we sit together, does it also resonate with the fans? And I think it will.
There, on that point, just about the releases, there, I think there was also a lot of positive feedback throughout the sessions we had today and yesterday, that in general, while you're pretty vague about the release dates, that also means that you leave in studios enough time to like finish their games and make them as best as they can be, you know. And I think probably most of the gamers out there really appreciate that. Like, put another half a year into this, if it's possible, and if you can, and if it makes sense, as long as we get a game that we like playing afterwards for a long time. I think that's common sense around the community, and so you're on the right track there.
It's always the question of, you know, timing, budget, all this kind of stuff, but also of making sure that, you know, we don't want the development studio to have to work through Christmas or something like this. They should have a life and be happy with their families so that they can enjoy a family game. This would be very weird to kind of, especially weird to force a studio to kind of, you can't go home to your families because you need to bring joy to other families. That would be a strange
So they
approach.
can give them to their kids on Christmas, right?
Other people have families that they want to have fun with, so don't go to yours. So yeah, the game just needs time, and we need to have time to be in touch with the fans, like today, to just hear their thoughts, because we're one part of this, but the whole process is a joint effort to bring justice to a legend.
Someone just wrote that it could be 2021, just if you make it good. But
I mean, we can certainly say 2020.
Yeah.
We can safely say that. But I have to say that it's also been, it very much is an effort with THQ Nordic and the support that they have. It really feels like, as people were saying, in terms of the game being done right, taking the time it needs, getting the support it needs, THQ is certainly providing that to us. And Martin, especially in this case, is always available and always a big part. Very much a piece, a very large piece, in fact, of the project, which is a
very large piece.
Very large. That's just Gamescom. Come on.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic relationship there, and it's really working out very well.
Cool.
And we have another partner with Nickelodeon who also supports me on the other hand, and us, and just helps us, guides us through this just beautiful franchise. We have access to their
As I said, this is also important. I mean, this is an important franchise for them, maybe their most valuable franchise, and they're letting you do this, so you got to appreciate that too, right?
And they know it's not just the franchise. They know that this game is, it's a very special game. They know this as well, and they love the game just as much as us. And they're super excited every time we send them something new, and then we talk about the robots and all this kind of stuff. So there's just tons of love and excitement going across the planet from us. We're both based in Vienna, which is very handy. Like our offices are basically 2 streets away. So no Skyping, just always talking.
That's nice.
And the other office of Nickelodeon is slightly farther away. It's on the other side, is in New York, and
other side of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about video games. There's completely different people from different continents, but we're all working on something that we all love, and they're connected through this wonderful creation of the wonderful Steven Hillenburg.
And we feel the responsibility of that as well, like both to the fans of the game and to Nickelodeon and everyone else. We understand just how important this is to a lot of people, and we're taking that extremely seriously.
Yeah, I mean, that would really disappoint some people if there's this game. I mean, they love the series, and they also love the original game, and then this wouldn't be a good game, so some people would actually be sad about that. I mean, really sad, I think.
I would be one of them.
Yeah, and you would be one of them.
Yeah.
So
it's even little details, like one of the fans wrote us, when we released the teaser, there was this lady who wrote us, like, please don't change Mrs. Puff. And we were like, okay. Like, for this one fan, Mrs. Puff, and the way she talks in the game, and the way she shakes and stuff like this, this little detail for her was like the most. She really wrote like a super lovely email, like, please, please, please don't change Mrs. Puff. Mrs. Puff was so great, and I really loved her in the game. Please don't change Mrs. Puff. And so it's this level of just, everybody. For me, it's the Flying Dutchman. I'm just the biggest fan of the Flying Dutchman, so I'm still waiting for the graveyard, for the level with the Flying Dutchman. So everybody has their favorite little thing, and that just boosts you towards attention to detail, because you never know whose favorite bit was just Larry the lobster, or this little dialogue, or the bungee jumping with the fish hook, or surfing on your tongue. There's just the list goes
almost
on.
endless, right?
Yeah, and we have to do it all right. We have to get it all done properly, because it's someone's favorite part, all of those.
It's a lot of work to do, but hey, let's again be realistic here. This level already looks fantastic. I mean, people loved it. I think people loved it playing it. We are all day we're seeing people leaving this booth, and they're all happy, they're all smiling, they had fun playing it. And I think we saw this demo today like 6, 7, 8 times, and people are really eager to see more. And I think that's a good sign. So we're on the right track here. I'm really looking forward to it. And maybe next year, 2020 at Gamescom, we can show you more of Battle for Bikini Bottom. I hope so, at least. I think that's
sure. I think
probably
we can already. You'll see stuff pop up on the internet.
It's probably realistic,
on Twitch
right?
And everywhere else of more like as we go, towards Christmas. It's just as things get polished, we can release more stuff and show you the robots and the robot bosses and all this kind of stuff.
Okay, nice. So guys, thanks for being here. This
Thanks for having
is
us.
Andrew
Thank you for
from
having
Purple
us.
Lamp. This is Martin from THQ Nordic. So nice having you here in the studio and this little show. We're gonna go on a short little break afterwards, and then we'll be back just